Okay. Oh, wait a couple. The rest of the condition. Everybody at 5 rain delay.
Going in? Oh, no, I'm good. Thank you, sir. What they are gonna sure.
I will go ahead and call the meeting to order and go to citizen communication. Go ahead and do that.
We have one, and that's Mr. Blanco Fermo. I think he's present.
I am.
Oh, okay. You have 2 minutes, Mr. Fermo.
Do I go to the dais as normal?
Stand wherever you like.
All right.
The corner right there would be good.
You said we're all like that. I'm listening to English. With one exception, Texas has a city manager form of government. Various important duties are assigned, like preparing a budget with department heads. In Harlingen, traditional type criteria is not being met in that greatest attribute of veracity. By a prominent head, when you look out into the kind of audience that he's brought. So that attribute is going to put the city manager in peril. Today, instead of a city manager forum, we're also confronted by an entrenched politician. And he's extending his tentacles if we continue to allow a perennial situation. Term limits are not necessarily needed for Harlingen. What's new sometimes is we've got some novice commissioners that may not have done all their homework on term limits, but they're on the right track. There has been, and the way the current political trends are, that's all you will. And hopefully that'll help us trim this enormous budget to all its closing. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anybody else?
No one else.
All right, very good. Item 1 is the proposed budget fiscal year 2022.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners.
I know everyone's glad to be carrying around the budget binders for 2.5 weeks. We try not to make them as heavy as they are, trust me. But we're going to go over a PowerPoint presentation. We're going to have plenty of time for the questions and answers. I want to point out before we get started that we are still pending information. One is the health insurance cost, and two is the certified tax roll. We probably won't get the certified tax roll on property taxes until the 25th of July. So in all likelihood, we will have to have the third workshop at the end of July. This is where we can discuss a final budget proposal. But with that, I'm going to turn it over to Robert, and he's going to get us started. And then I'll take over and jump in on the actual.
Thank you, Dan. So the PowerPoint is meant to summarize that whole 400 and some pages of budget binder that you have there. So hopefully this flows through to kind of explain that budget binder. On the first slide that we have is a budget and tax setting deadlines. So this is a schedule of all of our deadlines that we need to follow. The bolded areas are the statutory deadlines, and the dates at the end of the sentences are based on our city calendar. So the first one, as Dan mentioned, is July 25th is when the chief appraiser is required to deliver a certified appraisal estimate of taxable values to the city. From there, we are going to use that appraisal roll to calculate and determine our property tax revenues. So by August 7th, the city manager should submit the no new revenue and voter approval tax rates to the city commission for approval. That's on our calendar for August 4th. On that same date, the city manager must post the calculation to the website and other postings. That's on our schedule for August 4th. August 29th is the last day for the budget officer to file the proposed budget with the city secretary. That's on our calendar for the 13th of August. September 18th is the last day to publish notice of the budget hearing. We have that scheduled for August 14th. September 22nd is the deadline to vote for approving the proposed tax rate. And then also the continuous posting of that internet notice of tax rate public hearings. September 24th is the last day to publish the notice of the tax rate hearing if the proposed tax rate will exceed the no new revenue tax rate. We have that scheduled for August 14th. September 28th is the last day for hearing on the budget. And the 29th is the city should adopt the budget no later than this date. So what are the ramifications of not following this deadline and those dates would result in adopting the lower of the no new revenue tax rate calculated this year or this year's tax rate. So those are some important dates. On legislative overview, this is kind of a repeat the Senate Bill 2, which is we have new commissioners that I'd like to just kind of go give an overview. This was effective as of January 2020. It caps our property tax revenue growth at 3.5%. In the past, it was capped at 8%. So they have reduced that to 3.5 for voter approval. So if you can't grow more than the 3.5%. A tax rate adopted with the voter approval rate automatically triggers an election. So if you adopt anything above that, you would have to go for an election. And these are the different variables that affect the revenue growth calculation. So sales tax, of course, appraised values included in disputes and lawsuits, redevelopments, terms of appraised values and collections, debt service payments, prior year tax rates, property tax refunds, and annexations. Some new legislation that has come through. There's a whole bunch of new legislation. A lot of it has to do with appraisal districts, but I selected the two that specifically affected the city. House Bill 988 is for property tax appraisals, and it just limits the direct and indirect communications that a city official can have with the chief appraiser to limit the influence that they have on setting the tax rate. So that's House Bill 988. House Bill 1869 deals with debt financing and modifies the definition of debt. And so there's nine requirements or criteria, and it basically revolves around only bonded debt could be included in the property tax calculation for debt service. Some of the budget goals for fiscal year 22 are to maintain streets. We're proposing 2.5 million in budgeted to street maintenance. We are proposing purchasing a street sweeper for the streets, provide for the construction of speed humps. We have drainage improvements. The city plans to fund drainage projects by leveraging grants. We plan to continue enhancing our public safety, specifically police operations, by the purchase of data recovery server, police services with our upgrade of server in the rack kit with 19 hard drives, purchase of equipment for fire department, and that's various items for fire. We want to maintain the current public service levels and possibly improve those citywide level of public services delivered. Provide public restrooms facilities in the downtown area, provide lighting for the Centennial Park, and to fund salary increases. So a general overview of how we are beginning the year and how we are going to end the year. So we're beginning the year with 26,051 in fund balance. We are proposing revenues of 49,785,461 and proposed expenditures of 50,639,593, which leaves a shortfall of 854,000. So currently we are at a deficit of 854 with an estimated ending fund balance of 25,197 to end the year estimated.
Thanks, Robert. I'll pick it up from here. So we're going to start going through the funded in the general fund request. These are requests submitted by department heads. In police operations, we have a data recovery server at 37,000. In police services, and please don't ask me what these are because I'm not going to pretend I know. I'm not even going to pronounce that first one. It's a server rack kit and 19 hard drives at $19,000. For fire suppression, 12 air packs at $72,000, no cylinder. Rewire the station generators at $40,000. Drill field drafting, $20,000. And pit extrication tools at $33,200. Again, these are all in the budget and these are all funded, proposed to be funded. Fire prevention, we have one Ford Explorer at $30,000. It has 101,000 miles. It's a 2008. In engineering, we have one Rover package GPS system at $40,000. Animal control, we're replacing a 2010 F-150 with 177,000 miles at $25,000. Again, we are proposing to fund these requests. In parks, we're proposing to fund 2 sod cutter for athletic fields at $8,720. The downtown bathrooms at $300,000. Centennial Park lighting at $50,000. The Atlas 2x4 poly bed. Javier, you have to explain to me what that is. Is that a trailer? Where's that is?
The ATVs, they're gators.
Altering vehicles, okay. 26,108. I know we talked about that. By the way, I did meet with every department head individually to discuss the budget, which I was several weeks ago. Aluminum bleachers for Victor Park Athletic Field, $18,120. And shade structures for Victor Park Pool at $15,000. And street maintenance, a Mixture paint, 5-gallon bucket. This is for street striping, street cleaning, another street sweeper. This will give us 3 new street sweepers at a cost of $272,000. And building inspections, we're asking for a new F-150 to replace a 2008 model at $23,000. In public buildings, we need to do some building upgrades. At the Casa del Sol, we need to replace the chiller at a cost of $97,145. Fire station number 4, we need to replace a 4-ton condenser unit at $19,833. At the police department, we need to do an HVAC assessment. We are having some issues with hot and cold spots within the department, the entire building actually. Also at PD, we need to replace some LED light poles. At the New Hampshire Communication Tower, we need to upgrade the emergency generator for the tower, and we also need to upgrade the battery backup for the tower. And that's a very important communications tower. Traffic signal maintenance, we have some MMU, memory management unit motherboards for the traffic controls at $23,000. 2 traffic signal cabinets at $26,000, and 2 traffic signal upgrades at intersection of 13th and 77 and 7th and 77 at a cost of $12,924. Positions. This I will have to use my glasses. So we are proposing to fund 1 additional position in our MIS, our IT department, at a cost of, well, you have to do the math there, but 33 and the benefits are 19. We only have 3 IT folks for the entire city. We have 2 additional folks that are assigned to our police department by itself. And obviously with a city our size, 3 guys, that spreads them pretty thin. We are asking for 3 communications personnel for our 911 call center. And these 3 would be dedicated to fire department calls. We feel it will expedite our ability to route calls to our fire department. Booking officer, we need 1 additional booking officer in our jail. We would like to convert 8 part-time positions in our parks department to 4 full-time. We actually realize a salary savings, but the benefits increase because they become full-time positions. We are having a challenge holding on to part-time personnel. Our turnover rate is pretty high. In the health department, we have had, is Josh or Shannon here? Josh is here.
Yes, sir.
How many, we've had 3 animal control officers, right?
Yes, sir.
For how long now?
Over
Because I
15
was
years.
there. Yeah. And our city has grown tremendously over that period of time. And they've asked for an animal control officer every year for as long as I can remember. When I was a health director, I asked for one. And so we want to find another animal control officer. In our sanitation fund, which is one of our enterprise funds, they're asking for an executive secretary and 1 additional solid waste driver. And those 2 would not come from the general fund, those 2 would come from the sanitation department. And those are positions. We have quite a few other positions that are requested, but these are the ones that we're proposing to fund. Again, this is the breakdown, a little more detail on the different requests from the department. I can go through them, but ultimately, the cost of non-recurring one-time purchases, capital purchases, is $1.3 million. That is what we are proposing in this budget. As I stated earlier, we're still waiting on the health insurance bids. We did get some bids in, and they were high. The health insurance provider that we currently have, Blue Cross and Blue Shield, came in with a 41% increase. if we keep our current benefit plan, we would realize a 41% increase. We did budget a 15% increase over last year, but even then, we have $5 million, and the difference is 1.1 million over on the 41%. And that's only the city cost, not the employee cost. We did get additional proposals from other providers that were in the range of 20 to 27% higher than our current plan. We have gone back to all of them and asked for best and finals. We hope to have those back tomorrow or Friday. And then we'll have a better idea of what type of increase we are looking at. But we are going to see a substantial increase. Again, we had budgeted at 15%, which is already included in the budget in anticipation of an increase. But no, we were not anticipating 41%. So once we have that, I know we're having another budget workshop next Friday. We should have this number a little more locked down with what we can expect to pay. And then we'll present that to the city commission. So budget reductions by department. Typically throughout the years, this number would be very, very high. This number would be 8 million, 7 million. That's what I've cut out of the budgets in the past, just to try to balance it. This year, we're fortunate, we're projecting sales tax growth at 4%. So that's allowed us to do some of these other requests from the departments. But on the public buildings request, the 232,000, that's for a generator for public works. It is not that we are not going to fund it. We are going to fund it, and I'll show you in just a minute. We are simply funding it out of the sanitation department. Public works, the majority of that complex is sanitation, so we are going to fund it out of sanitation, out of the enterprise fund. But overall, the department requested $52.3 million. My proposal now on the budget is $50.6 million, with a reduction of 1.6. And we still need to talk about some additional requests, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. The YEXA energy and sewer charges for the general fund, this amount is not in the budget binder, the $232,083. It's a total of $419,000, but $232,000 will come from general fund. The rest of these are enterprise funds. That is not in your budget binder. The reason being is that the budget binders went out before we made the decision to move forward with the payment plans. We are still pursuing, matter of fact, we're going to be on for RFQs this weekend, right? To begin the process of looking for possible other providers. But I just want to make sure that we're clear that this amount, actually the total, is going to be added to the budget, so it will increase the deficit amount.
Any word on the stuff that was supposed to be on the other desk?
Still haven't heard anything, Commissioner. I don't believe he signed it yet either. So we're still hopeful, but we're still going to go out for proposals to see what else we get back. Major requests unfunded. Our police department wanted a drone with a camera, $30,000. We have 5 in our possession already. 2 that are weather resistant, can be used out in inclement weather. That are these 2 right here. They're both $9,000 a piece. So we have plenty of drones, plenty of cameras that the departments can share within the department. So didn't see the need to buy another one. Street maintenance, the blacktop crack sealer machine, $87,000. That would be to buy one. In your budget, we've been leasing it along with the supplies, and we do about 160,000 linear feet of crack sealing a year, and that in your budget is $50,000 to do that. So this is the cost for the machine, and then we would have to spend some additional cost to buy the material. So I left the cost in there for the rental of the piece of equipment.
Can I ask a question? We have a street maintenance fund, right? That we're calculating
For street improvements,
Yes. Can we not use that money for purchase what we need there? Because I also know that on the previous slide, $150,942 in an increase. And you may fund that from somewhere else. I looked at it. Why is that not being calculated?
I'm sorry. I think that's it, sir.
Go to the previous slide, with the stuff that was not included. One more. Right there, 159.42, the street maintenance.
Right here?
Yes, the reductions. The back, yes. No, two slides back, right,
I'm sorry.
right there. The street maintenance, yeah, the request 2.8, 2.6, difference of 159 to 42. Is it not, I mean, can we not take the money from, that we generate off that street maintenance fund and fund those requests that they're requiring? Because I understand budgeting and restricting stuff, but I go back to the last slide you're on. The difference between leasing and purchasing is like $30,000, but it's a one-time purchase, and you'll save an additional $50,000 the following year. We don't have to lease. So I'm just wondering why don't we take that money that we're already accumulating and that we don't have a deficit in street maintenance?
Yeah, if we add the cost of the 87,000, does that include the cost of the material?
No, sir, it does not.
How much is the cost of the material?
It would probably be an additional
20,000.
for just that
But
first,
then it'll only be 20,000 from here moving forward, supplementals.
plus maintenance of the machine. Yes.
Well, that's something we can look at, Commissioner, adding that cost back in.
But yeah, I said my answer, right? We have a maintenance fund, you're generating income. So why is it not self-sustaining?
I don't think you can get it from there.
The street maintenance fee is
It's for-
specific by ordinance that can only be used for street improvements, meaning, overlays,
And sidewalks.
So the cedar, it's either the street and part of that maintenance. I disagree.
Well,
It is, it's two different funds. Funds. One is street maintenance, so when they go out and fix potholes, all crack the seals, that's a different expenditure.
Okay.
And the money that we, derive from the initial charge that's on your water bill, that's just for like to do a repay of the street. Completely different streets. So those are two different kind of buckets, two different. So street maintenance they're talking about is your at 45.
Yeah, so in the street maintenance, we're projecting 1.4 million in revenue, but we are proposing 2.5 million in expenditure. The balance is coming out of the general fund. We need to start doing more streets. We need to get caught up.
Okay, so you said repeat that one. We had 1.4 million. but
So
what's
in the
1.5?
street maintenance is in your budget binders. What tab is it on? So in the street maintenance, we generate about 1.4 million. But in the very beginning, Robert covered, I'll go back to that slide.
So wouldn't it be wise, and
Right here.
if you're going over $1 million on just that one item to do a street project fund, that almost, you're already at $1 million negative in the budget.
Yes, sir, but because of our fund balance, I'm proposing to take it up for fund balance. I'm trying to do more streets. You drive around our city and we have fallen behind on street paving. And right now, with the fund balance we have an opportunity to do drainage and some paving. And that's what we're proposing to do. Possibly at mid-year, maybe we can look at buying the crack seal machine But my focus was trying to get more streets done and gave me some more leverage funds for our drainage project.
Really things that you want to purchase it because it would be cheaper in the long run. So this makes sense.
It does, I do not disagree, and we get to get out of fund balance to buy it. Yes, sir.
If we could go back to the unfunded. The unfunded proposals. And what I noticed here on last Monday, that the commissioners 2, 4, and 5 voted to spend $200,000 for fire unit because we have an incompetent Roger. We have an incompetent Danny who are bad at accounting, even though they're CPAs. And so I don't see that you funded that $200,000. Where is that going to
So you already
come
got the money for that? Not just from what I understand, you set it out of your money.
Excuse me, I was looking at the talking. So the question is where are we going to fund that from?
We don't have an estimate for that audit yet, sir, so we are in the process of developing an RFQ. And I am going to present that RFQ to the city council for consideration and approval on the 21st of July. And then we're going to go out to RFQs and get respondents to respond. And then they will present to the city commission. That's my intent. City council will narrow that down to the one they want to negotiate with. And then we'll have a better idea of what that cost is going to be. Right now, I don't know what that cost is going to be because I don't know exactly the scope or the depth on the audit.
Right, will they just investigate you, fire you, or will they investigate?
So again, you shouldn't be throwing out numbers, like you're just throwing out numbers for some
For the
reason.
record, nobody said about anyone, no one said anything about anyone being incompetent. This is just an RFQ, doesn't mean we're gonna accept it, we just wanna know what they have to apply.
And I am working on that, and unfortunately, we had to kind of create one from scratch, so we'll have it ready by the 21st, and we'll present it.
And now we can include this upcoming year budget.
We will probably have to do a budget amendment for this year, if we have it done on time. I don't see a reason why we won't. Okay. Sure. Vehicle depreciation, that's basically the replacement cost of vehicles. We have been replacing vehicles from fund balance because those are one-time expenses. So we took that out. Our IT department asked for new security cameras at City Hall. We can wait on that, in my opinion. Some storage drives. Municipal court security camera system at $22,251. I asked Robert if we could take that out of the court security fund. Is that a possibility, Robert?
I believe so, but I think that, I was talking to, might be put it in our proposal with different people. So I'm gonna go back and look at that quote to see if that.
Okay, so that's a possibility that may get funded through other funding sources. A virtual tape backup system and an email server as a backup system. I think we can figure out ways to fund that this current year. So every 5 to so many years, you want to do an update to your comprehensive plan. We are at the 5-year mark. We are not proposing to fund that $150,000 this year, and we can wait till next year. And then the engineering department is asking for a comprehensive pavement assessment at $200,000. That basically prioritizes what streets need to be paved and what streets need to be replaced. A great idea, but we are already running a deficit, so I think we can hold off on that for now. Again, this is just my recommendation. These are positions that are not funded. I won't go through all of them. You have them in your packet. Be happy to touch base on any one of them. Every year we do get requests from the departments. Our city is growing. You know, obviously with building permits going up the way they are, more and more requests for services, there's more and more of a demand, from our staff.
Are those all, I'm sorry, yeah, right, it's only two of the four, only two are part-time. Hello, the question?
Right. The internal audit is part-time.
Yes. And so we did this year, the city council was kind enough to fund an additional plans examiner. And we're still trying to find someone. We have fallen behind on permit reviews for residential and some commercial. We need to get caught up, and we need to do that in a timely fashion. Our growth is not slowing down, it's just gonna get better. So we need to keep up with that growth. And over time, at mid-year, there's no reason why we can't revisit some of these positions. So for additional consideration, during the joint meeting with the 4B, the 4B funded $1.8 million towards golf course improvements for poles 1 through 18. It was my understanding from the discussion with the city council that we possibly wanted to fund the other 1.2 million from the general fund. That 1.2 million is not in this budget binder and not reflected in the $864,000 deficit at this point. So that's something we want to add. We can certainly add that on there, and it would be a one-time expense.
I thought we voted on that.
No, there was no item on the agenda to go on. So
So then the improvements aren't gonna get made?
We voted.
We had approved for, voted to, set aside $1.9 million for golf courses. And so we approved that, that's still short of what.
So yeah, this is the difference.
Just, it's gonna have a general fund. I think there's, we could go back to the period before next. Yes, please, please. I think that they will have the cash flow on that. And say that. And training, street improvements. Try to get some.
So,
That's just a suggestion.
okay, but then you mentioned that we have a very healthy fund balance. What is our fund balance? The 25 number? So you mentioned a couple times that our fund balance is pretty good right now.
So this is our proposed fund balance at the end of this year.
Mhm.
And the 854 deficit was reduced to 25,197. So it is a healthy fund balance.
Right. It's another couple $100,000, right? The
Well,
the 232 is not in there to protect some.
No, and nor is the increase of whatever the health insurance is going to come back at.
Right.
And then also, let me get back to that one slide, sir. The 21st Street Storm Sewer Improvement Project, we submitted a grant application. We submitted a grant application and were approved for the grant. Unfortunately, because price of construction is going up, the original estimate for that project was $1.6 million, with $1.2 million coming from grant funds and $399,000 or $400,000 coming from the general fund. And that's part of the $6 million that we set aside. So the updated numbers for that project, it went from 1.5 to $2.5 million. However, FEMA or TDM has told us that they're ready to move the project forward, that they will not fund the increase. In other words, they will stick to the funding of $1.2 million. We will have to come up with a difference. I am saying that we need to move forward with this project and do the project. It is still doing a project, a drainage project for 51 cents in the dollar. We have to do it. It's just, I urge you to move forward, to say yes, so that TDM can move forward with actual construction of this project. So the difference is $886,478. That will come from the $6 million we set aside in this grant fund, okay? And the reason I'm bringing these up is that at some point, we are gonna have to start taking these funds out of fund balance, the general fund. Because the same thing has happened with the Jefferson Street Storm Sewer Improvement Project. That has had an increase of 272,000. So if we get all the projects that we propose to the city council from the $6 million from the ARPA funds, we are already over by 628,000. So that 628 would come from the general fund if we're allocated all the grants. And so far, we're doing really well in grants. And of course, the GEXA amount of 232. And of course, that's spread out over 12 months, beginning October 1st. So in summary, major requests that have not been funded, 2.7 million, and major requests for additional consideration of 2.5 million. So total budget funding request not funded is $5.3 million. But a big portion of this one will come from the $6 million set aside from the ARPA funds. I'm going to get into the general fund proposed revenues. And there's a nice chart, pie graph there. Sales tax, we're proposing 20.1 million. Excuse me. Property tax 19.5. I think this is the third year, probably. I think the third year that sales tax is overtaking property tax as our largest source of revenue. And then you have other fees and charges.
Are you planning Rosie's scenario with sales tax or?
4% growth. A little, and we'll go over that in just a minute. A little over 4%. So total revenues at 49,785, 461. Again, this is just the initial draft budget. It will change once we get the certified tax rolls. Again, the property taxes, we're projecting about a 2% overall growth. Sales tax, a little over 4%. Franchise taxes, a slight increase. And you'll see the breakdown all the way through. The transfers from other funds, we had a reduction from the sanitation fund last year compared to this year. So that's why there's a difference there. But the proposed for next year is 49,785. An increase of 1.1 million over this past year, the current year, I should say. Proposed expenditures are over $50 million, $50.6 million. And you see the breakdown. Personnel costs makes up 70% of the general fund expenditures. Capital outlay 2%. Services and charges 18%, supplies 4%, and financing incentives 6%. On the personnel costs, again, that makes up 70%. The breakdown a little bit further by department. Public safety, police and fire make up 69% of that 70%. And all other general fund departments make up 31%. So our personnel costs $35.3 million. Expenditure budget comparison to the current year. For next year, we're proposing an $872,000 increase to the pay. And that comes from the collective bargaining agreement with police. We are still negotiating with fire. And we also have a slight cost of living adjustment for our non-civil service employees. So you have the capital outlay is a negative. The difference there is, if you will remember, the city council approved the purchase of the ladder truck and 10 new police vehicles during the current year. They are not in the budget, so that was a one-time expense. So that's why there's a difference there. The ladder truck alone was a substantial cost. Funding challenges moving forward. For the golf course, estimated operating loss for fiscal year 2022, next year, is 268,706. We are transferring 268,706 from the general fund to cover that offset, to cover that shortfall. That is in your budget. When you look at the golf course tab towards the back of your binders, you will see where that money is coming from. But 268,706 is coming from the general fund. And we are estimating the unrestricted deficit fund balance for the golf course to be at $1.5 million at the end of next year. The museum, yes, sir.
This volunteer with that, you're still looking at having the back nine vote, correct?
Yes. Yes. And the museum also receives a transfer from the general fund. We are projecting that operating cost deficits of 48,000, so we're transferring 48,000 from the general fund for the museum. But we are estimating their fund balance at September 30th of 2022 at 86,000 in the blind. And one of the things that I am considering, there's no reason why we can't take the 48 from the 86 from their fund balance and make that up and free that $48,000 up for the general fund.
Yeah, can you, ask for a breakdown for the next meeting of, dollars transferred to all our parks, broken down by park to the golf course? I just know we're putting the Filthy Park, putting the Victor Park, coordinates, and so we can do a comparison on, golf course costs X amount of dollars. What's the transfer to the tennis courts on the either way?
Yes, I think the answer to your question is, not sure I understand the question, sir.
Well, we put money to all the parks, right? I want to know
For
what
the general fund.
right? And I want to know what each part costs us, right? Because it's not a money maker, right? They're not money makers. But using the tennis courts as an example, how much money are we having to transfer to tennis courts? As opposed to, we're in negative 268 right now for the golf course.
Okay, sure, we can do that. At the next budget workshop, we'll have a breakdown of what the general fund is paying for the parks department. Sure. And any other department. Basically, all these are general fund departments, all of them. With the exception of this one right here. That's a 120 account, that's a grant.
Well, I'm just looking at specific parks, right?
Parks.
The parks.
Gotcha.
Golf course is enterprise.
Yes, sir. Let me get back where I was. I'm sorry about that. Okay, going into a little more detail on the golf course. Going back to 2016, these are revenues, these are expenses, depreciation. And so that's where you end up with your losses. So over the years, you have losses. This last year was 393. But correct me if I'm wrong, Robert. On this next slide, where is it? Do one more. On this number, that's if we sold all the assets, right? Right. So you notice that a while ago I talked about the $1.5 million deficit that needs to be negative fund balance for the golf course. This number is a deficit, but this number reflects what we estimate we would end up with if we sold all the assets, including the 18 holes, including the buildings, including basically everything. Am I correct, Robert?
Yeah, that's a net position, so your losses 846 the deficit, but since the land and the assets are not liquid, your unrestricted net position is deficit 1.5.
And then you see the revenues and expenditures match, and they match because we are transferring the 268 from the fund balance. I'm sorry, from the general fund. Major requests funded, non-recurring items from sanitation fund. Sanitation fund It's a healthy department. Repair the public works complex, $500,000. We have some needed repairs to the buildings out there. The emergency generator I talked about earlier, that was in public buildings in the general fund, we moved it over to sanitation. A residential side loader, garbage truck, gotta pick up the trash. The satellite truck, that's that truck that, can do those hot shot runs, right? And deliver a container. So we have a call, something we've never had before. It's a really good idea. I love that idea. The fleet maintenance shop repairs the fountain. That's where the employees wash their hands. I think that's the one that we have is from the 1940s. Maybe that's an exaggeration. It looks like it. We need to buy a tractor rig for the landfill. As you know, we don't have a landfill, we have a transfer station. So all the trash that we take in at the transfer station is hauled to an approved landfill. We have a current contract with Edinburgh, that's what they're taking. And auto parking system for 6 trailers, very important. We had a recent incident with one of our employees getting hurt, and we need to upgrade these automatic parking systems. But this is an enterprise fund, and none of these are general fund funds. Internal Service Department, that's the motor vehicle warehouse. We do have a warehouse with stocks, tires, batteries, what have you. And of course, we're still pending the health insurance. So we budgeted 15% increase at $5 million. The Blue Cross Blue Shield proposal came in at 41%, a difference of $1.1 million. Again, we are going to realize an increase, and once we get those numbers, I am gonna have to go through and rearrange some of these proposed things. Because we're gonna have to cover the difference from somewhere. We had some catastrophic claims this current year that have really had an impact on our rates. So we are negotiating that, and hopefully we'll have updated information by the end of this week. So proposed budget for fiscal year 2022, we are proposing a budget, total budget, including the enterprise funds, of 95.5% revenues, 95.5 million revenues, and 96.7 million in expenditures, and taking 1.2 million out of the fund. And the majority of this money is coming from sanitation. So that would leave us at these numbers here with our fund balances. This is an enterprise fund balance. This is the warehouse fund balance and internal services. This is vehicle depreciation. So vehicle depreciation, the majority of this money belongs to sanitation. We have not depreciated general fund vehicles in, I think, 9 or 10 years already.
You're talking accounting wise.
Okay, accounting. So I believe that's it.
And I see, in hiring people, you include benefits as a cost.
Yes, sir. All that is included. That is the.
Right. But I just want to point out to the people here who don't know that benefits is part of the hiring package, and you have to account for those as well as pay out those benefits.
So that's what these are. Salary and benefits.
And those are the current benefits, right? I mean, the current cost.
Yes, and
With that,
And again, the health insurance, one of the things that we need to talk about, and I'm going to propose down the road, probably our next budget workshop, is passing on a 15 or 25 or whatever percent increase for the health insurance to our employees. That's a huge hit for our employees. And so I'm coming up, I'm talking to Robert. I've been giving it a lot of thought, trying to come up with a way to offset some of that for our employees. And I'll propose something maybe at the next workshop or at the third workshop. But I do see the need for a third workshop because we're still waiting on the appraisal tax roll. We'll bring back the information requested by Commissioner Uribe, and we are also waiting on the health insurance.
Are you anticipating a tax rate?
Been talking to Robert about that, Mayor? Yes, sir, and, there's a possibility that we will have to reduce the tax rate.
What's the difference between, got on the first page, under, fund balance, or fund balance? What's this?
The 26th. The 26th is at the end of this current fiscal year.
No, I think this one may have included the audited amount. I will double check that number.
Well, just the difference between what you have, fund balance here.
Oh, you saw time right here. Robert.
Yeah, that's what's fine. Yeah,
Okay.
I'll double check that one. I'll double check.
We'll correct that, and
I might,
Yeah.
I have a question, so how do we, because you know, you said on some of these were unfunded positions. How do we add some of those positions to the funding?
you simply tell me you want to add them, and I have to figure out how to pay for it.
Because I know I spoke to you, that I was thinking about that I don't know if you guys would agree with me, but I think we need a person that specifically just for grants. Because I know, we have someone that you said was on the special projects.
Yeah, Anna, who's done a fantastic job. She just came on board recently. She's right back there. And she provided some information since she's been here. She's actually acquired, we moved forward with acquiring some software. And Anna has been doing a matter of fact, Anna was the reason we received that $1.4 million grant for the COVID vaccine clinics at the convention center. She's the one that identified that, got that money. This is in addition to all the other money we got. And she was able to identify a software program through eCivics, and she can explain it better than I can. That this software identifies grant opportunities and facilitates the process of going through the application, not only the application, but the grant assurances and the tracking of those grants, which is very important. Because not just getting the money, it's making sure you comply with their criteria. And she's done an outstanding job. She's working with all the department heads. We've been having several meetings. She has. I know the department heads are loving it. They enjoy going to every single one of them. But the intent here is to get very proficient with that software, because that software will do the work of someone researching, trying to identify where the grant opportunities. And I can answer more questions than I can. She understands it better than I can.
and you brought up software, where do we at with the software for the,
Or the packets?
for the package?
Sandy, you want to answer that?
Yes, we have scheduled meetings next month for the training directors.
Why is that taking so long? It's been over a year that we haven't, it's a $15,000 item. It's supposed to save time and money and everything you just said about this package. Why is that taking so long?
That one because the city secretary were busy with the elections and they were not available to implement the software.
The city election for this year, I'm talking about last
Yes.
year, we did this last year. We didn't have an election last year.
Oh, we got the money in October of last year. We purchased it in December, and it takes time to implement this. It's not an easy
We
process.
actually have a demo from 3 different companies.
Yeah.
So when will it be installed?
It's already
Where
installed.
start?
It's already installed. We just have to go to the training, get all the directors trained on it.
So when
We
we
think about
start?
going live at the last meeting in August next month.
Great,
They're gonna hold you to that, Senor. That's me. I'm gonna hold that.
Yes.
I'm gonna,
Sean, do you think it would help to have someone that was just geared just toward the grant writing?
Well, it depends on how aggressive we want to be. Because right now, the average spend 1 to 2 applications per month that we're submitting. So, I mean, if we want to, hopefully the grant management software that we're applying, that we're in the process of implementing, I guess that will give us a better sense as to how we can increase the productivity, because each department is responsible as well for requesting grants as well.
Who writes the grants?
Well, it depends. Each department, for instance, engineering is very very independent in terms of going out after grants. So it depends on the departments. I assist some departments with the grant writing, health was one of them. So it depends.
But because no matter what Anna does or grant writer does, they're still gonna have to depend and lean on the subject experts. Like drainage would be engineering, because the cost benefit analysis, there's a lot of engineering that goes into what goes into a grant application, because they want detail. But the same thing for PD. PD does a great job of applying for grants.
They have their own record.
They do have their own grant writer.
So that's what I'm saying, because I know that the PD's doing a great job on that. So I just kind of want to see that city, because I know you're doing a great job, you are, but I think it would just be a little bit more helpful if you had one of those. Because I know what you're saying, the expertise goes to different departments, that's true, but it also goes into the writing as well. And I think we had someone that was a grant writer, that their job is grants. I think writing grants, that would be small, especially with that new infrastructure committee that's going to be hopefully will get passed. But I mean, there's going to be tons and tons of money that's out there. But I'm hoping that we can really take advantage of it. We have a grant writer here that's ready to show this whole thing, and especially that software. I think that'd be very beneficial.
But
I'm not disagreeing with that. They want sort of really amplify the fact.
up $40 million.
So our departments are doing a great job of few grants. So the airport, those are at the specific area, that's a real specific discipline. They could, PD that's engineering, environmental department, grants. So I think, maybe there's something else out there that these individual departments have to put in. Getting grant. We might just share that information with you. Get that information.
But we can't come up with a cost of what it would cost to bring a grant writer on board. They can work with Anna.
I agree with you, they're doing a great job, but I want to do better. Sure. Our city needs major improvements for drainage, that everybody can see. You go outside, earlier this morning, I was riding around in my district, looking at all the places that were flooding, some of the canals and all that stuff, that's kind of annoying and stuff. But and it's one thing I've learned from going to the waterworks, the workshops from the waterworks, and that's separate, but for the drainage on this, I was like, I need to do this factor. We can, even if we have to look at a position, I don't know, say it's, with benefits package or whatever, it goes up to 50,000, 60,000, with benefits, all that. And that person can bring in an extra $2 million, $3 million, $4 million worth of grants. That pays for itself, just like grants.
We can put that cost in there and bring it back to the next workshop.
Okay. And also, another thing I also want to do is, it's something kind of like what he mentioned right now. Well, two things. He actually brought up two things. The city secretary, I honestly believe that our staff and the new secretary don't not because I see what Meyer and I see what Nani does, and they're always, that's being us. And I know I'm a pain up with them, and I can imagine like Commissioner Fuente and now Commissioner Morales is probably the worst. So I know I think you're just inquisitive. That's okay. That's okay.
They need help.
Yeah, so I would see, we could see put that in there as well, because I think they really need the help. And the last thing too is I know this is something that I'm very interested in. I'm hoping that maybe the other commissioners are interested in too. Because I know one thing that I would want to do is I want to move our elections. Right now we have elections right now with the city. Okay, what I want to do is I want to move them to the county, where the county will be responsible for running the elections and all that. We'll still be our elections, but the county will be administrating the elections, and I think that would be better.
And we did get that estimate, Commissioner. It's a little over $30,000.
Is that with the waiving of the fees? Because I know I talked to Ray Garza and he said that the county commissioners will waive the decisions for the machines.
On the machines, yes, sir.
You did waive them?
Yes, they did waiver. And this is only an estimate cost, so this is $33,990. So it's only based on 5 polling places. I did not add the Milan polling place and the Jefferson. Now, if we do add more polling places, then the cost will be higher. This year, together with the general election and the runoff, it was 21,000.
Have you checked, because I know I've heard, and is that when, because I know I've talked to some of the people on the, some people, they mentioned how maybe the school district is thinking about moving to county as well.
Yes.
Is they move to county as well, because we split that cost with them as well?
Yes, so remember that this, yes, if you go on 5 polling places, it would be, divide this cost with the school. If they add the polling place, Wylam and the Jefferson, or any other polling place, Zavala, or, it's Zavala and Bonham, then there would be 3 additional polling places that you would have to pay for, and you have other costs.
And also, that's what they don't have. Egress.
Yes.
So we will bring that up, Commissioner, at the next one. We will add that one, the handwriter, the breakdown for the parks.
And the golf course, is there a way where we could, because I agree with what the mayor was saying. I agree that the golf course needs a lot of attention. And honestly, I agree also that we need to open the back 9. But before we do that, and before we start using our funds that can be used for drainage and street repairs, for me, the number 1 issue is drainage. Because I see it just from people driving on the other side. So I think before we mess with our funds here, is there a way we can bring back the 4 people, or how do we do that? Because they got money, and that last thing they had is just they started out with this high amount, was it 2.something million, and then they ended up with like 1.6, I have no idea how we got there. So,
What they were doing, though, what I was in this, you're leveraging future months. Yes, the argument is, well, those expenses are gonna come into the future use anyway. But I'm wondering if there's items in this budget that will come the same way, right? That will budget they cost, but you know what, we're actually gonna use the money for next year. So why should we take it down to this year's budget? That's one of the questions I wrote down. Oh, you know, city manager, what's your question? But that's how they got to that. That was my thing about just using future money, the money is my opinion.
are there other areas where, because I agree with Richard, who's saying about the leasing, where we can save on just, again, I understand we're adding, but is there a word we can say, I think an option that we can save by just purchasing something? Because I think on one of the things I was looking at, where we're using a copy, it's not a big amount. I think it's like $3,000 or $4,000. But I'm assuming it's in that every year. You just bought one. You can save money on that. Well, that's what I'm afraid of, things like that.
Yeah, the leasing for the copiers includes the service, the maintenance of the copier. So it's not just buying the copier, it's somebody to maintain it.
And it's also the my experience.
And copiers are very expensive.
That's the need alone is like.
Yeah, and like I said, that was just my example. Like, is there other areas, like how Richard said about that, the thing with the streets, where we could purchase it, and yes, it's gonna be an upfront cost, but in the long run, it would.
Well,
save us money.
The question I have is almost similar. Is any contract services we're using that we may no longer need, or we can upgrade to a different device, save money on the contract? Or by upgrade the contract, or even in the contract. No, that's it.
Yeah. So, maybe the next meeting, and also, bring that for the, balance. We're talking about this balance, we're capital, items. Obviously, we want to do that, same time. We want to make that
Well, and
so many days. All right.
What is legal, because I know, I know there's a standard that we're supposed to have a certain amount of.
we have an informal policy of 90 days. We are gonna adopt a policy, and we're gonna recommend a 90-day policy.
I'm working on that, but now it's policy.
186.
Right
But we have some other area that we need to look at, that I need to discuss with the city council, but those are discussions for another meeting at another time. That will dip into the fund balance if we decide to move forward.
Okay, any other questions, comments today? All right, thanks for the budget, overview, presentation, and look forward to the next meeting. And, thanks everybody for attending. that you're here. Thanks for your help putting the budget together this year. All right, then let's stand adjourned. All right, Bruce, is that good?
Thank you.